Welcome back to Beyond the Silence Whispers Across America. I'm Sammy, and tonight we are traveling to the vast windswept plains of the Fort Berthold Indian Reservation in North Dakota. This is a land of immense beauty and deep cultural heritage, but it is also a place where the shadows of injustice fall long and heavy. We are looking into a case that serves as a heartbreaking symbol of a national crisis. A disappearance that exposed the systemic cracks in how we protect Indigenous women. This is the story of Olivia Lone Bear, a mother of 5 who vanished into the oil-rich landscape of the Bakken, and the family that refused to stop searching when the world turned away. The year was 2017. Olivia Lone Bear was 32 years old, a member of the Mandan, Hidatsa, and Arikara Nation. To her family, she was the life of the room, a woman known for her quick wit, her resilience, and her fierce, unwavering love for her children. She was a daughter, a sister, and a vital part of her community in Newtown. Olivia was a woman of habit and connection. She checked in with her father daily and was deeply embedded in the lives of her 5 children, making her sudden silence on a Tuesday evening in October not just unusual, but an immediate signal of a life-altering catastrophe. Her family describes her as someone who was always on the go, but always with a destination and a purpose, usually centered around the needs of her children or her extended family. The mystery began on the evening of Tuesday, October 24th, 2017. Olivia was last seen driving a borrowed Chevrolet Silverado pickup truck near her home in Newtown. She had been seen at a local convenience store appearing normal and unhurried. However, after that night, she seemed to evaporate into the North Dakota chill. When she failed to return home or call her father the next morning, her family didn't wait for a waiting period. They knew Olivia. They knew she wouldn't just leave her kids without a word. The initial alarm was met with a frustrating, fragmented response that would come to define the first months of the investigation. Local authorities initially treated it as a standard missing persons case, but for Indigenous families, there is a historical weight to that classification. A fear that missing quickly becomes forgotten. Because Olivia disappeared on tribal land, but the surrounding areas involved state and federal jurisdictions, the search for her became a bureaucratic nightmare. Her family immediately reported her missing to the 3 affiliated tribes police department, but they soon found themselves caught in a jurisdictional maze between tribal police, the FBI, and local county sheriffs. For weeks, it felt as though no single agency was taking the lead, leaving the family to coordinate their own search efforts across thousands of acres of rugged terrain and through the transient, high-traffic man camps of the local oil boom. These man camps, temporary housing for the thousands of workers flocking to the Bakken for high-paying oil jobs, created a unique and dangerous environment. The influx of outsiders brought an increase in crime, drug trafficking, and human trafficking. Yet law enforcement resources remained stretched thin, struggling to monitor a population that was constantly in flux. The Lone Bear family, led by her brother Matthew and her father Tex, became their own private investigators. They organized search parties on foot, on horseback, and with ATVs, combing through the Badlands and the industrial outskirts of the oil fields. They plastered her face on billboards and utilized social media to keep her name in the public eye when local news cycles moved on to the next headline. They navigated the dangerous underbelly of the Bakken oil fields, an area flooded with thousands of transient workers and limited law enforcement oversight, searching for any sign of the white pickup truck or the woman they loved. They interviewed neighbors, tracked cell phone pings that led nowhere, and even hired a private investigator when they felt the official efforts were stalling. The emotional toll was staggering. Every sunrise without Olivia was a reminder of the silence they were fighting against. The winter in North Dakota is unforgiving, with sub-zero temperatures and blinding snow. Yet the family never stopped. They looked into the dark corners of the oil industry, wondering if Olivia had crossed paths with someone who viewed the reservation as a lawless frontier. Despite their efforts, and despite the eventual involvement of federal agencies, months turned into a grueling winter with no sign of Olivia. The silence from the authorities was often louder than the wind across the plains. The breakthrough finally came on July 31st, 2018, 9 months after Olivia vanished. In a move that highlighted the agonizing simplicity of what had been missed, a search team using sonar equipment discovered a vehicle submerged in Lake Sakakawea, just miles from her home. When the white Chevrolet Silverado was pulled from the water, the truth was as cold as the lake. Olivia Lone Bear was still inside, belted into the passenger seat. The discovery raised more questions than it answered. The truck was found in an area that had supposedly been searched multiple times during the initial investigation, including aerial searches and boat patrols. How could a full-size pickup truck be missed for 9 months in a lake that was central to the search area? Even more chilling was the condition of the scene. Olivia was found in the passenger seat, not the driver's seat, a detail that immediately suggested she was not in control of the vehicle when it entered the water. If Olivia was the one driving that night, why was she found on the opposite side? Was there someone else in that truck? And if so, how did they escape while Olivia remained strapped in? Yet, the initial autopsy results were inconclusive. The official cause of death was listed as undetermined, with no obvious signs of trauma that hadn't been caused by the elements or the passage of time. The lack of water in her lungs led some to believe she might have been dead before the truck ever hit the lake, but without clear forensic evidence of a struggle, the case remained in a legal limbo. To this day, the case of Olivia Lone Bear remains officially under investigation by the FBI, but no arrests have been made and no clear narrative of her final moments has been established. Her family continues to push for answers, questioning why it took nearly a year to find a vehicle in a local lake, and why the circumstances of her being in the passenger seat haven't led to a definitive homicide ruling. Her story has become a rallying cry for the missing and murdered Indigenous women, MMIW movement, highlighting the disparity in investigative resources and the deadly consequences of jurisdictional confusion. It shines a light on the epidemic of invisibility that plagues Indigenous communities, where cases of violence often go uninvestigated or underreported due to systemic bias and a lack of cooperation between agencies. The implications of Olivia's case reach far beyond the borders of Fort Berthold. It forced a national conversation about the safety of women in boomtowns, and the need for Savanna's Act and the Not Invisible Act, federal legislation designed to improve data collection and coordination in MMIW cases. For Olivia's children, however, the legislation is a cold comfort. They are growing up in the shadow of an unsolved mystery, knowing their mother's body was just miles away for 9 long months while the world looked the other way. The silence of Lake Sakakawea still holds the secrets of that October night. Was it a tragic accident that was simply missed by investigators, or was Olivia the victim of a predator who used the chaos of the oil boom and the cracks in the justice system to hide their crime? The questions remain, and the fight for Olivia's justice continues to echo across the plains, carried by a family that refuses to let her name be forgotten. That's where we'll leave it for now. No neat answers, only the questions that refuse to stay quiet. I'm Sammy, and I'll keep telling these stories because someone out there knows something, and for people like Olivia Lone Bear, silence should never be the end. If a detail stood out to you, don't let it go. Share it, question it, talk about it. Stay with us. This story isn't over, and neither is our search. For more chilling mysteries and untold stories, follow and listen to Beyond the Silence. Whispers across America on all major podcast platforms.